The coronavirus pandemic will end, otherwise the economic crash will kill more than the coronavirus does, so eventually the UFC is going to be back on track, and when it is back on track, it needs to be bigger than ever, and what better way to kick things off with a bang than a new season of The Ultimate Fighter. Dana White has always said to us that The Ultimate Fighter is not cancelled. We have never had confirmation that The Ultimate Fighter has been cancelled, but we haven't had a season in a very long time. We haven't had a good season for even longer than that, and that's why I want to kick off the fucking new start to the fucking year, because we haven't even had a start of the year pretty much. UFC Rally was pretty shit, UFC 247 was a disgrace. Either way, 248 was pretty good thanks to the co-main event, but we left on a sour note, okay? We left things off with Adesanya versus Romero. It's going to take a lot of good things to make up for that. I want The Ultimate Fighter to be back on TV screens as soon as this pandemic is over, which seems like it's going to be in May. I'm not a scientist. That's what I'm hearing on the news. I think that's probably when it's going to be. Either way, we just need good coaches. That's the big thing. This is the reason why The Ultimate Fighter stopped working. You're putting on pointless coaches that have no animosity towards each other. The whole point of The Ultimate Fighter was to have animosity between the coaches. The coaches were supposed to be fighting each other, and a lot of times they are still fighting each other, but they're supposed to hate each other, go back and forth. There's supposed to be a rivalry, two teams. The only time that a team sport is enjoyable is when there's rivalry. That's the best time to watch teams go at each other. I need to see two great names headline a show of The Ultimate Fighter, and those two great names could be Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley. I would watch that Ultimate Fighter all fucking day long. Or Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman. Any of those two guys, any of those two groups of guys that I've just listed could be the headliner of the new Ultimate Fighter series, and it will completely reinvigorate the show back to the center of our attention. Everyone's going to tune in, and when you've got all of those people tuning into The Ultimate Fighter because of the big coaches' names that you've got on there, pay them well, and let's build ourselves a division that needs some help. Flyweight is a division that needs some help right now. There are a bunch of flyweights around the world. Let's make a flyweight season of The Ultimate Fighter and let in the semi-finalists onward. That makes so much sense. We have 17 flyweight contenders right now. You can't have a division if it's that shallow. Ask the women's featherweights. That's just how it works. We need a flyweight division. We need it to be stronger. And the only way to help out a division right now, instead of just signing a bunch of guys and putting them in incorrect spots on cards, is to have an Ultimate Fighter. Put that spotlight on a fucking division, include all the flyweights from around the world, and headline it with Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley, and if they don't want to do that one, with Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. Bad blood sells on The Ultimate Fighter. I'll read you off the list of great Ultimate Fighters, and then you tell me when you start to notice that things start to take a twisted little bit of a turn towards boredom. I'll name some headliners of The Ultimate Fighter seasons. You ready for this? Michael Bisping versus Jason Mayhem Miller. GSP versus Josh Koscheck, another great one. John Jones versus Chael Sonnen. Ronda Rousey versus Miesha Tate. Frankie Edgar versus BJ Penn. Joanna Jacek versus Claudia Gadelha. TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt. Joseph Benavidez versus Henry Cejudo. Not the best season in the world, but still a decent season. They had back and forth. There was a lot of shit talking. Dominic Cruz versus Uriah Faber. There's a multitude of guys that you can talk about in the Ultimate Fighter seasons that are just great names. Cain Velasquez, Fabricio Verdum, another list there. Latin America, great one as well. And then we get to the most recent ones. Eddie Alvarez versus Justin Gaethje, best friends. Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic, best friends almost. No shit talking back and forth, fucking boring. Kill me now. Latest season, Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum. I wonder how nice they're going to be to each other. You can't sell the season of The Ultimate Fighter. It doesn't matter what you bring in. If you're bringing in female featherweights that are going to KO everyone, and that's what you're selling. The fighters that go on the show don't sell the fucking show because no one knows them there. No one knows them. No one does. Your headliner of the show sells the show. And as much as I liked those seasons, because I'm a hardcore fan, you got to bring in the casual attention with a Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman, coaching each gym, ATT versus Black Zillions, which has now sort of become Hard Knocks 365 with Henry Hoof. They've kind of merged into that area, so it's still that sort of lineage of beef that goes on. We can take this all the way back in time to when it was ATT versus Black Zillions. They made a whole fucking show about it. Kamaru Usman even won that season. That's some storyline that you can bring into this one. Jorge Masvidal, Kamaru Usman, done. Or, even better, if you don't want to put two championship guys on there, Tyron Woodley, Colby Covington, done. You know what would be better than that? If Tyron Woodley brings in Jorge Masvidal as a guest coach, just to help him out for a week. Imagine the back and forth between Masvidal and Covington then. You know when they bring in the guest coach on The Ultimate Fighter, and everyone does this. Lesnar brought in Matt Hughes. There's a bunch of other examples where guys bring in some celebrity from the fight game. I know GSP or Koscheck brought in Chuck Liddell at one point as well to help out for a quick week of a show. It was good. Imagine if Tyron Woodley brings in Jorge Masvidal just to get back at Colby Covington. If the beef is so real and Colby's sitting there with his team on the benches and Woodley comes through the doors with Jorge Masvidal. Can you imagine? That sells. That just sells. I'd watch that every single week. I haven't been interested in an Ultimate Fighter for so fucking long since Dillashaw versus Garbrandt. There's a reason for that. There's no bad blood. We need bad blood. Woodley Covington, Usman Masvidal are the bad blood that we need. So let's make the show. Let's do it, and let's make the flyweight division the focus of the show, because the focus of the show is going to be the two guys going back and forth. The flyweight fights on the show are just going to be a happy coincidence. People are going to be like, I'm here to watch Colby and Woodley go back and forth. Oh, there's flyweights on the show? Cool, I'll pay attention to them. Good stuff. And what we'll do is we'll count everyone from the semi-final onwards, because it's such an empty division. We'll put them into the UFC and give them a chance. That's what we'll do. And the winner, maybe we'll get a jump up the rankings. Here's what you don't fucking do. And here's what's destroyed the flyweight division before. You don't give the winner of the show a title shot, because that shows how shit your division is. Okay? There's enough title contenders right now at flyweight. In fact, we don't even have a fucking champion because Davison Figueiredo missed weight before he KO'd Joseph Benavidez. In Cejudo versus Benavidez, the winner of the show fought for the title on The Ultimate Fighter. I want to let that sink into you guys. That's terrible for a division. That tells me that they have no one in the UFC right now of any interest for a title shot whatsoever, which they didn't at the time, but you don't want to let your fans know that shit. You want the fans to think, no, the flyweight division's good, we're all good. We got enough contenders. Don't give the winner a title shot, give them a shot in the UFC. That's how the Ultimate Fighter should work. Am I wrong? I think I'm right here. I think every clip of that would go viral. Every pushing battle between Woodley and Covington would go absolutely massive. Every shit talking back and forth would be huge. I'd love to see it. I really would. And I'd also think it would open up Colby Covington, because Colby has this different side to him that a lot of people aren't attaching themselves to because they don't see it. When you're only the shit talker on stage, people know you for that. And that's all they tune in for. Oh, he's a fake guy. He's doing it for the cameras. He's doing this. People need to know Colby as a person. And The Ultimate Fighter is the best way of doing that. Conor McGregor, when he went on The Ultimate Fighter, opened a lot of people's eyes to just who he was as a person. Helping out people. Quick wit on the go, which is something that you can't see on the big press conference. Because every time I see someone go up to a press conference and say a line, I think that's been scripted 100%. They thought of that backstage, or they thought of that a week before, and now they've had their big chance to use that line in front of the entire crowd. The only time you get to see someone's true talent in the art of selling fights is when they're caught off guard and they're on The Ultimate Fighter and they're just jabbing back and forth on the benches while their fighters weigh in. No one gives a fuck who weighs in. And Woodley's jabbing at him and Colby's jabbing back. That's when you're going to see the real shit talk. That's what I want to see. And it's going to cause such bad blood. And it'll be a massive payoff for a fight. And guess what? Here's what we do. And here's the ultimate recipe. We do Colby versus Woodley or Usman versus Masvidal. Either one of them works for me. I'm down. But then what we do is this. We make them the headliner. So this might work better if it's Woodley versus Covington. I'm thinking Woodley-Covington would be better. Fuck Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards can fight Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Still a good fight, by the way. Either way. Colby versus Woodley. Amazing fight. Let's make it a headliner of a fight night. And the co-main event of that is going to be the Ultimate Fighter finalist. Or finalist, as it's otherwise said. Fuck, I just fucked that up. Anyway. I look dumb. Either way, Colby versus Woodley. Build them up the entire show. They're jabbing back and forth. They're building us to fight. We've got a bunch of clips released by YouTube that always seem to get millions of views. All you need to do is push each other and you get millions of views. Am I wrong? That seems to be what happens in the UFC. Kamaru Usman gets in Ben Askren's face, doesn't even lay a finger on him. Hundreds of thousands of views. It doesn't take much. So if we can get a show between Woodley and Covington where at any point in that 8 fucking weeks of recording, Woodley and Covington's teams start pushing each other, you've got yourself a money fight, and you've got yourself a great headliner of a fight night. No longer do I want to see the Ultimate Fighter finalist. I'm getting angry. I mean, this lockdown's doing stuff to me, man. Anyway, no longer do I want to see the Ultimate Fighter finalist on the co-main event of an Ultimate Fighter card with a main event that has no relevance to the Ultimate Fighter whatsoever that they've just shifted on their last minute, like Adesanya versus Tavares. Don't want to see that shit ever again. I want to see this. The coaches of the show bring the attention to the card that they will be headlining, Woodley versus Covington, maybe back to DC, Washington. That's Covington's state right now. I know he's from Oregon, but either way, Washington, D.C. seems to be the Colby place. It's the presidential place of the U.S., I'm pretty sure. So that seems like it'd make some sense. UFC, Washington, D.C. Fight night. Woodley versus Covington main event. Co-main event. Some of the guys from the flyweights. I have no idea who they're going to find. But if they find the finalists, put them in a co-main event, they'll get a trickle down of attention. And finally, maybe we'll have some attention to our flyweight division. I don't want to do this thing where we have the men's lightweights and the women's featherweights on this show. Don't want to see that shit. It's too much to focus on. Needs to be simple. Find me 16 flyweights from around the world. We'll have them fight each other. Half of them will cancel each other out. We'll have our 16 for the show. Quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals. The final will be as the co-main event of Woodley versus Covington, which will have a bunch of hype, and we will save the flyweight division single-handedly because right now, this fucking lockdown shit is dreadful and pissing me off, and we need to make up for it when we get back on track with constant entertainment and content from the UFC. And what better way to do that than to reignite the spark of the Ultimate Fighter that was a great season and a great series for so long before we started ruining it by just putting random people on there. Random people on there. Why would you ever want to put Whittaker versus Gastelum on the Ultimate Fighter? I get it. They both won the Ultimate Fighters. Whittaker won Tough Smashes. Gastelum won the Ultimate Fighter that Uriah Hall was on. Chael Sonnen versus John Jones. Yeah, John Jones versus Chael Sonnen. Gastelum won that one. Either way. Why do we want to see that shit? Gastelum versus Whittaker? They're going to be nice to each other the entire time. DC versus Stipe Miocic. The most interesting part about that entire season between DC and Stipe was DC touched his chin like this. At one point, if you remember, DC just went like this to his chin. And Stipe did nothing. And that was the biggest moment of the entire fucking show. What are they doing? Put some guys on there with bad blood. I can name a list for you right now. Adesanya Costa, Ultimate Fighter. I want to see Woodley versus Covington, first of all. That's my first choice. But if you can't do that, Adesanya versus Costa, another great one. Whittaker versus Till. That main event's all the way in fucking August, the middle of August. We've got time to fill that card up. Make that one happen. Whittaker Till. They don't have bad blood, but at least then it'd be funny back and forth. Just throwing out some ideas here, guys. Usman Masvidal, another great one, but they're champions, so it'd be a little bit... I don't know if they would invest that much, because then it'd have to be a pay-per-view that they would fight on, and you wouldn't be able to have the flyweight winner as the co-main event of the pay-per-view that they fight on. Or maybe you would. You never know. Maybe you would. Maybe you just do that and have the flyweight finalist. Ugh, I'm getting angry. Finalist. maybe we have the can't speak now. Maybe you have the flyweight finalist on the headliner of the prelims of a pay-per-view between Masvidal and Usman. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. I feel like the Ultimate Fighter right now, where guys have way more of an understanding on how valuable shit talking is, would be way more interesting than it would have been back in the day. Because back in the day, the fighters told you their stories. Oh, I hit my kids and now I can't see them anymore. Where's your kid at? And all this. And oh, I fucking split up with my wife. And oh, my life's really good, but I lost my uncle at one point in my life. And it's just, no one wants to hear that shit. This isn't fucking American Idol or X Factor. No one cares. Get in there, talk some shit, win the show, and be the co-main event of Woodley versus Covington. End of story. Capiche? Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. Goodbye.